My husband, Horace, and I died in a car accident on the way to an orphanage to adopt a child. When we opened our eyes, we were back in 1977, before we'd even gotten together. This time, he never confessed his feelings, silently putting away the bouquet he'd prepared. In a silent, mutual agreement, I discarded the bracelet he'd once given me. After the college entrance exams were reinstated, I studied hard and became the first university student from our village. Horace, meanwhile, turned his attention to his other true love, the wealthy girl who'd always had a crush on him. With her by his side, he thrived. In an era full of opportunity, they started a company, went abroad, and achieved both fame and fortune. At our class reunion, we met again. He was the center of attention. He looked over at my son and me, dressed in our simple clothes, a cold mockery in his eyes. "Helen," he sneered. "Did you adopt a child, or are you just playing stepmom? What's the point of being reborn if you're still so poor? Not like me. Without you, I'm rich, happy, and have 3 sons, any of whom is 100 times better than that boy of yours." I looked at his 3 sons and smiled faintly. He didn't know the secret I carried from our past life. I was never the one who couldn't have children. Chapter 1. At the class reunion, I sat in a corner with my 6-year-old son, quietly eating. But of course, the man of the hour, my husband from a past life, made a beeline for our table. "Helen, long time no see." I looked up, my unadorned face meeting his gaze. I saw a flicker of disdain in his eyes. He glanced at my son and scoffed. "How can you afford to adopt a child when you're so poor?" Poor? Unlike him, I wasn't wearing a flashy watch or gold chains. The only jewelry I had on was the simple wedding band my husband bought me from a state-run store. My clothes weren't expensive, but they were clean and comfortable, plain, perhaps, next to his ostentatious display. "That's none of your business," I said softly. Horace's mockery grew louder. "You'd think for a class reunion, you'd at least try to clean up a bit. With a poor mother like you, isn't your son embarrassed?" I couldn't understand the malice in his voice. We weren't the resentful couple from our past life anymore. "A son doesn't judge his mother by her clothes," I said patiently. "If he did, he wouldn't be my son." Seeing that he wasn't getting the reaction he wanted, Horace's face soured before twisting into a triumphant grin. "I guess you could never be a real mother, so now you're just playing stepmom for someone else. How does that feel? It must be tough, right? Well, this is just your lot in life." "But I'm different," he continued. "I'll never suffer over not having a son again. My wife gave me 3. Each one is at the top of his class, with a bright future ahead. Don't you envy me?" I didn't respond. He had no idea this was my biological son. And he had no idea who was truly at fault for our childlessness in our last life. "Look at you, still struggling," Horace smirked proudly. "And look at me. Without you, I have 3 sons. I have status and wealth. My life is perfect. You know what a Hong Kong watch is? Oh, right. You've been stuck in that village. You probably wouldn't even know a good watch if you saw one. Let me enlighten you." He rolled up his sleeve to flash a gaudy watch. It was the latest trend, worth as much as a motorcycle. I had a whole drawer of them at home, toys for my son to play with. I looked back at Horace, who was beaming, his face glowing with the pride of a man reborn. In our past life, we had left the village to start a business, but he had failed time and time again, burning through my money until we were deep in debt. The constant arguments about our lack of children wore us down. He told me I was worse than a chicken that couldn't even lay an egg. He'd wanted to adopt a child to save face, but our marriage fell apart before we could. Now, reborn, he had soared. It was only natural that he would want to show off. "Congratulations," I said, my voice even. "You got everything you wished for." Seeing my composure, Horace's smile stiffened. "Seeing me so successful, with a family of my own, don't you feel the slightest bit of regret?" he asked, unwilling to let it go. I frowned. "Regret what? You're you, and I'm me. There's nothing to compare. We were both reborn. We had made a silent agreement to stay away from each other. Why was he so desperate to make me feel resentful? Would seeing me miserable really make him happy? Just then, my son started tugging on my arm. "Mommy, I want to go home. Romeo is sleepy." I gently stroked his fluffy hair. "Okay, sweetie. Mommy will take you home now." I put down my chopsticks, ignoring Horace's displeased expression. As I stood up to leave, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Helen, leaving so soon? Is the food not to your liking?" A woman walked toward us, the sharp click of her high heels turning every head in the room. A wave of admiring whispers followed her. "She must be rich, wearing heels like that. Only women from Hong Kong wear those. Horace really made it. He has cars, and his wife wears gold and silver. Of course. His family is the richest in the village. They do business overseas." I stared at the woman's beautiful face and stopped in my tracks. It was Clara, Horace's current wife. 10 years ago, Horace and I had to walk miles from our village to the county school every day. Clara lived in the county. Her wealthy family later moved to the provincial capital. She always had a crush on the handsome, intelligent Horace. I remembered his friends telling him that I was just a poor village girl, while Clara was an heiress he could marry to secure his future. In our past life, Horace had rejected her, and I was overjoyed, thinking it was out of love for me. I only learned later that it was his pride. He couldn't stand the idea of people saying he was a gold digger. He believed he could succeed on his own. But a country boy with no connections couldn't even make a living in the city. For the 10 years of our miserable marriage, he resented me, blaming me for holding him back from the life he could have had with the wealthy, adoring Clara. So, this time, he went straight to her. Clara approached, her makeup flawless and her red dress clinging to her figure. With her curled hair and bright red lips, she looked like a movie star. Her eyes swept over my simple floral dress and braided hair. Other than a pretty face, I had nothing she would consider exquisite. "Helen, long time no see," she smiled smugly. "The baby's tired." "We should get going," I nodded, trying to excuse myself. "Why the rush?" Clara leaned down, smiling as she pinched my son's cheek. "He's a handsome one. Call me Auntie, little guy." A red handprint bloomed on my son's cheek, proof that her pinch was anything but gentle. My heart clenched. I instinctively slapped her hand away, pulling my son behind me. "What are you doing?" Clara, stumbling back, laughed with rage. "Is he made of glass? Honestly, looking at how shabby you are, you clearly didn't marry well. You act like he's some precious jewel that can't be touched." I didn't want to waste another second on her and took my son's hand to leave. But in the next moment, Clara shrieked. "You wretched child. How dare you knock over a wine glass on my bag? Do you have any idea what this bag costs? More than your parents make in a lifetime." In a fit of rage, Clara's tirade of curses began, scaring Romeo to tears. If I hadn't been holding him tightly behind me, I have no doubt she would have tried to shove him. My eyes went cold. Once was an accident, but twice was a deliberate attack. Just then, Horace rushed over, forcefully pushing me aside. "Helen, I can't believe you still have that same terrible temper after all these years. I know being a stepmother is hard, but you can't just throw tantrums. How dare you start a fight with my wife? Have you no shame?" I scoffed. Romeo was a small child, he couldn't even reach the table where Clara's glass was. And it was just a bag. Her particular style wasn't even that impressive, I had more expensive ones at home. If my son truly had caused an accident, I would have gladly paid for it. Before I could speak, Romeo bravely stepped out from behind me, his little voice trembling as he declared, "I'm sorry, Auntie. It was my fault. I apologize. But you can't bully my mommy." I knelt and hugged him tightly. "It's okay, Romeo. Mommy will handle this." Horace glanced at Romeo, then his eyes settled on me, a smug, knowing smile spreading across his face. I think I've finally figured it out, Helen. You live a simple life, dress simply, probably don't even own a bicycle. Your clothes are years out of date. Let's be honest, you're jealous, aren't you? Jealous that I rejected you all those years ago and chose my wife instead. You see how well we're doing, so you're having your son act out to cause trouble. His words painted a false picture for the entire room. 10 years ago, customs were more conservative. Our classmates hadn't known the details of our relationships, but hearing Horace's story now, they quickly filled in the blanks. A short-haired woman chimed in, Helen, I mean, even if you did like Horace, it's been so long. He has 3 children. Are you really so bitter that you'd try to interfere with his family? Exactly, someone else echoed. That's just cruel. And if she's that bitter, what about her son? Like mother, like son. A boy raised by someone like that won't turn out well. The accusations flew from all around me, each one more absurd than the last. My expression finally darkened. I could tolerate their insults, but I would not let them speak about my son. I shielded Romeo and said sternly, first, I barely know this couple. The idea that I'm jealous after 10 years is ridiculous. And Ms. Bai, I said, looking directly at the gossiping woman, as a mother yourself, you should be ashamed for bullying a child. Second, I continued, if my son bumped your glass, it was an accident, not intentional. He has already apologized, and I am offering to pay for the damages. Just name your price. Clara immediately put on a displeased, wounded expression. Helen, why would you twist my words like that? It sounds like I'm the bully now. Yes, the bag is ruined, and I worked hard for the money to buy it. I know your family could never afford to pay me back, so I wasn't going to ask for compensation. But really, Helen, you must hold a grudge because Horace chose me instead of you. I was speechless. A grudge? Clara lifted her chin proudly. With my family's help, Horace has a successful company overseas. He's handsome and rich. I have everything a woman could want. Of course, you're jealous of me. I was so infuriated I could only laugh. You give yourself too much credit. I think you two are a match made in heaven. You deserve each other. Hearing this, Horace was even more convinced of my envy. Of course we're happy, he laughed. I have 3 sons, while you're just a barren hen. Whether you're a stepmother or adopt, what success could you possibly have? And your child, he looks a little slow. Is he mentally challenged? He's certainly no match for my boys. As if on cue, Clara added with a smug sneer, honestly, Helen. Even if you can't have children, you didn't need to adopt. Doesn't your husband feel ashamed of raising another man's bastard? That was it. I finally snapped. I stormed forward and slapped them both, hard, across the face. The sound echoed in the silent room. I have tolerated you for long enough, I seethed. Your sons are the ones who should be ashamed of their parents. Now, get lost. Chapter 2. Clara and Horace were stunned into silence. They clearly never expected I would dare to fight back, let alone strike them both. Clara was the first to react. Forgetting her elegant facade, she covered her cheek and shrieked, Helen, you shameless bitch. How dare you hit me? Are you tired of living? I hit you, I said with a cold laugh. Do I need to make an appointment for that? As soon as the words left my mouth, Horace lunged at me. He meant to grab me, but I dodged, and he only managed to shove me off balance. I stumbled backward, thankfully caught by the kind woman who had spoken up earlier. Even so, Romeo scrambled to stand in front of me, his little body a shield against Horace's aggression. You can't bully my mommy. At that moment, the woman supporting me also stepped forward. We're all old classmates, she advised gently. Let's not make a scene. Others joined in. Yes, let's calm down. Security here is no joke, this isn't the place for a fight. Shut up. Did I ask for your opinion? Horace snarled, pointing to the red mark on his face. All of you saw it. She started it. He turned back to me, his eyes filled with a raw fury. I was trying to be civil, Helen, and you dare hit me? You hit my wife and call my sons bastards? Are you trying to go to jail? I sneered. You and your wife cornered my son and scared him speechless. Go on, call the police. Let's see who they believe. Since they had abandoned all decency, I felt no need to be polite. After our past life together, I knew Horace all too well. He was a bully who preyed on those he perceived as weak. What about my wife's bag? Horace snorted. Clara quickly added, yes, my bag. This is imported from France. You can't even buy this here. I didn't even bother looking at the bag. Its quality, or lack thereof, was obvious. Clara was just trying to extort me. Don't worry, I said. Whether my son dirted your bag or not, I'll pay for it. I'll even pay for the slap. Consider it an education. But likewise, you'll be hearing from my lawyer about harassing my son and assaulting me. In this era, suing was still a novel concept. Clara laughed mockingly. Suing? A country bumpkin like you even knows that word? Is that something a person like you can afford to do? If you don't have the money to pay, just admit it. Why are you trying to save face by scaring us with empty threats? I just smiled coldly. Give me your payment account. Helen, do you know why I could never stand you? It's that stubborn pride. Horace scolded. That bag costs $300,000. Could you earn that much in your entire life? Forget earning it, have you ever even seen that much money? I had completely lost my patience. I'll say it one last time. Give me the account number, or you won't get a cent, and I will sue. Clara glanced at me disdainfully, convinced I was bluffing. How old are you, Helen? Think about it. You're just a stepmother. If you run up a huge debt, won't your husband just kick you out? You have no figure, no looks, and you can't have children. Why would any man want you? Account number, I repeated, my voice like ice. You're just ungrateful, Horace grumbled. Clara covered her mouth to hide her smirk. Since you insist, we won't be polite. She could already picture my humiliation when I couldn't produce the money. These days, large bank transfers had to be done in person, and since I wasn't moving, she was sure I was faking. But she didn't know that with a large enough deposit, a simple phone call was all it took. I pulled out my brick phone in front of everyone. The room fell silent. In this day and age, even an old mobile phone was a symbol of wealth. It's probably borrowed, Clara snorted. A phone only costs $10,000. Is that supposed to be a lot? Horace scoffed, taking out his own to show off. I ignored them and focused on the call. The operator on the other end asked for my card's PIN. I froze. After years of my new life, I hadn't once used this particular card. My husband handled everything. I honestly couldn't remember the password. I entered it incorrectly. Twice. The phone speaker was loud, and a tinny electronic voice announced, incorrect PIN. A ripple of snickers went through the room. Oh, Helen, Clara said, her voice dripping with false pity. We're all classmates here. We know your background. If you don't have the money, just say so. It's not like we can force you. Isn't it embarrassing to pretend to be rich? I was speechless. I don't remember it. Is that so hard to understand? I retorted. My response was met with a fresh wave of laughter. I could hear them whispering. I thought she was actually wealthy, but it's all an act. Wealthy? That's $300,000. I'll never see that much money in my lifetime. Seriously, just because she has a phone doesn't mean she's rich. What a joke. All right, Helen, have you had enough? Clara mocked. Has the money been transferred? Should I have Horace wait at the bank to check? I was at a complete loss. Fine, I sighed, shrugging. You wait here. I'll call someone to bring the cash. Clara sneered. Cash? Do you really have that much cash? Don't make a fool of yourself. How about this? You don't have to pay. Her eyes glinted slyly. You and your son kneel down and apologize to me, and we'll call it even. What do you say? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Horace chuckled, looking down at me. Go on, Neil. This is all your own doing. The other guests looked on, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. Just as the laughter reached its peak, a commotion erupted at the entrance. A powerful, familiar voice cut through the noise. Who did you just ask to kneel? Chapter 3. Victor walked in slowly, and the crowd instinctively parted to make way for him. He was flanked by his secretary and the restaurant manager, but all eyes were on him. Dressed in a dark, tailored suit with a pocket watch gleaming on his waistcoat, he carried himself with an authority that silenced the room. In an era of relative simplicity, his presence was astonishing. A stir went through the room. Even Clara recognized him at a glance. That's Mr. Fu. The Mr. Fu from the National Business Association? What's a man like that doing here? Since it was a private event, everyone was confused by the intrusion. But in the next second, their jaws dropped. The distinguished Victor bypassed the gawking crowd and came straight to me. He immediately saw something was wrong. His brow furrowed. What's the matter? He asked softly. Horace and Clara, both aware of Victor's status in the country, scrambled to get his attention. And connection to him would open up any market. Horace was the first to speak, his posture suddenly humble. Mr. Fu, I've heard so much about you. It's an honor. This is just a small misunderstanding, nothing to trouble you with. Clara, unable to stand her husband being looked down upon, interjected, the bag I bought in France was ruined by this woman's child. I'm not an unreasonable person. I was ready to let it go, but she insisted on paying, then slapped us and threatened to sue. So I told her if she kneels and apologizes, I'll forgive the 300,000. It's a generous offer, don't you think, Mr. Fu? Hearing this, Victor suddenly laughed. He turned to me, a hint of amusement in his voice. I didn't realize you enjoyed getting your hands dirty. His words were so familiar, so intimate. It wasn't a reproach, but a kind of surprised delight. Anyone could tell something was off, but Clara was convinced a man like Victor would never associate with someone like me. Mr. Fu, you don't understand, she insisted. People from these poor villages, they can be very cunning. She's never seen 300,000 in her life, but she's too proud to apologize. As a cultured person who's been educated abroad, I find it disgusting. She is simply jealous of me. Jealous that my husband chose me, and jealous that I have the money to buy such expensive things. As Clara prattled on, Victor's expression grew darker. I shrank back slightly, knowing what was coming. Sure enough, Victor turned to me, his tone feigning seriousness. Are you? He asked, a subtle, wounded grievance in his voice. Are you jealous she has money? Jealous her husband didn't choose you? I was at a loss, realizing I'd have to spend the night comforting him over this unfounded accusation. Of course not, I tried to explain. Hearing the answer he wanted, Victor nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He then scrutinized Horace from head to toe. Looking at him. I'm inclined to believe you. Horace's face turned livid. Clara sputtered, how dare you say that about my husband? Are you interested in this country bumpkin or something? What does she have? She's never even been out of the country. Victor's smile vanished. My grandfather was a soldier who fought for this country. Don't you dare suggest that being a citizen of this nation is something to be ashamed of, or that a trip overseas makes you superior. He paused, then added, besides, I think you're mistaken. She has been abroad. He was right. We had just returned from a vacation in Hawaii. But that wasn't the point. Having been deeply influenced by Victor's family, I had immense respect for my homeland. Travel was a privilege, not a weapon to look down on others. As long as he understood me, that was all that mattered. This was why I had fallen for him. After the pain Horace had caused me in our last life, I was disillusioned with marriage and men. But Victor was different. He wasn't one for sweet talk, but he understood my struggles, my pride, and my silence. He proved to me that good men existed, men who were not obsessed with offspring, who didn't blame their partners for their own failures, and who wouldn't look down on a girl from the countryside. Marriage wasn't terrifying, marrying the wrong person was. With him, I gave myself a second chance. "So, you're the one who has to pay?" Victor asked, bringing me back to the present. I nodded. "I forgot the password. It's quite embarrassing." Victor simply nodded, not questioning me or offering to make the transfer himself. He gestured to his secretary. "Get 300,000 in cash." The entire room was stunned by this casual display of power. Clara, who had been ready with another mocking comment, was left speechless. "Mr. Fu, you really don't have to," Horace stammered, thinking Victor's gesture was a favor to him. "I couldn't possibly accept." Victor didn't even acknowledge him. An awkward silence fell over Horace. Clara, bitter and confused, finally snapped. "Helen, you really have a way with men, don't you? Twisting them all around your little finger." "Horace, she's just being kind so we don't look bad." "Do you really think he's helping you? Are you shameless enough to accept it?" She couldn't understand why a simple country girl could command the help of a man like Victor. Chapter 4. "That's enough," Victor's voice cut through the tension. Though not loud, it carried an authority that left no room for argument. Clara and Horace fell silent, fuming but not daring to object. Before long, the secretary and a bodyguard returned, carrying several satchels heavy with cash, which they placed on the floor. Clara still looked skeptical. "Mr. Fu, she's just a country girl. Are you really going to pay 300,000 for her? She was just pulling that number out of thin air." The moment she spoke, Victor's eyes went cold. "I'll warn you once. If you dare to offend my wife again, I will not hesitate to take further legal action." The entire room froze. Wife. Before anyone could process it, Victor walked directly to me and our son, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "I forgot to introduce myself properly," he said to the stunned crowd. "This is my wife, Helen, and our son, Romeo." Everyone was in shock. Clara and Horace stood there, dumbfounded, the color draining from their faces. They had come here to flaunt their success in front of me, only to find out I was on a completely different level. Just moments ago, Horace had been gloating, and Clara had been mocking my status. Now, they looked like fools. The mood in the room shifted instantly. Suddenly, everyone wanted to greet me, their voices full of respect. Unable to stand the humiliation, Clara's eyes filled with tears. She looked to Horace for comfort, but his gaze was fixed on me, ignoring her completely. I met his stare, my expression unreadable. His eyes flashed with anger and confusion. I couldn't understand it. He had gotten everything he ever wanted, so why did he still care? I tried to turn away, but Victor gave me a warning glance. He then turned to Horace. "Mr. Horace," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "A little respect, please." Horace could only bow his head in a cringe-worthy smile. He grabbed a distraught Clara and left, but not before casting one last, deep look in my direction. That single glance cost me dearly. Later that night, Victor's protective anger turned into playful jealousy. "He's still in love with you, isn't he?" he questioned me repeatedly in bed. "No way," I replied firmly. "Horace just can't stand that I'm doing so well without him. He expected me to live a miserable life, pining for him forever. The reality is his worst nightmare." Chapter 5. The next morning, on the way to take my son to school, I ran into Horace. It turned out he had moved his family back to the country, and his 3 sons were now attending school here. "Can we talk?" he asked. I saw no reason to refuse. We found a bench in a nearby park. He started with a line that stunned me. "Helen, I know you haven't forgotten me." "What do you want, Horace?" He seemed to get lost in memory, talking more to himself than to me. In our last life, we went through so much hardship together. When things were finally looking up, all I wanted was a son. Why couldn't you give me one? Do you know how much I blamed you? Back then, I swore that if I could do it all over again, my life would be different. I nodded. I understand. We both suffered. The pain from that life, it still gives me chills. We died too soon, Horace murmured. If we could have just adopted a child. I chuckled softly. I never said my child was adopted. Horace froze, his face a mask of disbelief. Impossible, he stammered, quickly regaining his composure. You're lying. You can't have children. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment. I had tests done in our last life, Horace. It was you who couldn't have children. Not me. Impossible, he interrupted, his voice rising. I have 3 sons. How could I be infertile? They are my sons. I just listened quietly, a sense of pity washing over me. Horace, I said gently. I knew back then. I hid the medical report from you to protect your pride. But my sons. He trailed off, his agitation growing. They are my biological sons. Perhaps, I said with a compassionate smile. Chapter 6. After our conversation, Horace went straight to the hospital. The words on the fertility report were a knife to the gut. Still unconvinced, he immediately ordered a paternity test for his 3 sons. When the results came back, Horace completely snapped. He realized his entire new life, the foundation of his pride, was a lie. The truth sent him into a spiral of frenzied revenge. He didn't just want to ruin Clara, he wanted to destroy her. He tampered with her parents' food, leaving them seriously ill. He used cunning schemes to ensure Clara's company was nothing but an empty shell, transferring all the real assets overseas. Buried under a mountain of debt, Clara was kicked out of her home with the 3 boys. In the end, with no other choice, she began working in the red light district to survive. It wasn't long before she contracted a disease. In a final, desperate act, she confronted Horace with a knife. You were the one who couldn't have children, she screamed at him. I didn't force you to marry me. You only wanted our family's money. What right do you have to blame me for this? In that last moment before she ended both their lives, Horace finally understood. It was never anyone else's fault. It was always his own choice. He had blamed Helen, he had blamed Clara, he had blamed everyone but himself. He didn't deserve the love Helen had once given him so freely. The next time I heard their names was in a news report. Clara had taken Horace's life before her own. Before that, she had also pushed her eldest son, who was not Horace's, down a flight of stairs. And just like that, their story returned to dust. When I heard the news, I let out a soft sigh. That's life, I suppose. Just as I was lost in thought, Victor came up and hugged me from behind. Why the long face, he murmured. He always knew. But I just shook my head, turning my gaze to our son playing happily in the garden. I am happy, I said. And the future looks even brighter.